Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Pivot to Your Purpose podcast. I am your host, Lenora Lassiter. So, if you're joining me on tonight, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So, if you're on either one of those platforms, make sure that you go ahead and click that share button. Okay, click that share button so that you can invite others to join in on tonight's podcast because tonight we are really going to have a great conversation. So, just want to let you all know Facebook have kind of changed the way that streamers or podcasters stream, especially if they're using a third party platform. So, I encourage you, in case there is a pivot in the future in regards to streaming on Facebook, make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Okay. Make sure that you subscribe. And those who are subscribed, make sure that if you're not getting notifications, you may need to unsubscribe and then resubscribe to the YouTube channel. So, again, welcome to everyone who is tuned in on tonight. I am grateful that you all are on. And listen here, we got our first guest. Gene Jr. is on. Hey, sis. Hey, Gene. Thank you so much for tuning in on tonight via YouTube. If y'all have not found out about Gene Jr., make sure that you subscribe to his social media platforms. He was on my podcast the last two episodes. And listen, when I tell y'all he dropped some knowledge, he dropped some knowledge. And he's like a lyricist. Okay, I don't even know if I said that word correctly, but he just dropped gems, okay, with his words. He have a way with words. So make sure that you all follow him there. All right, my sister is highlighting her platform. So yes, highlight. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone that she highlights on her platform. Brianna 3307. Thank you so much for joining. She states, good evening, good evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, if you are on Facebook, like and share. And if y'all see it on Facebook, tag me in it, okay? Make sure y'all tag me in there, okay? I definitely want y'all to make sure y'all tag me because I want to see it. All right, I think I see it here. So let me try to share it to my platform. So y'all bear with me real briefly here while I go in and share this on my social media platform. And as I stated, for those who are just joining me, Facebook have kind of shifted things on how we stream. So give me just a moment and I'm going to share on my platform here. So what they're doing is that they are pretty much creating events for those who are streaming on their platform. So that's what's going on now. But it's okay. It's okay. We'll definitely learn everything that they're doing and we'll just pivot, right? Ain't nothing wrong with that. We'll learn how to utilize this. But anywho, I think I've spoken enough about that. So let's continue with the conversation on tonight. So tonight, if you're joining me for the first time in the month of February, I have been talking about relationships. And on tonight, I think this is so key. Communication that builds, not breaks. Oh my goodness, y'all. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. Communication that builds, not break. Okay. All right. So let me recognize some other individuals who are on real quickly. Okay, YouTube. Who we have here? Bree Yakety Yak said, how are you? I am doing well. Busy day, but I'm doing well. Grateful to be able to chat with you all on tonight. Roderick is on. Good evening, everyone. Y'all got to give it up. My daddy is on. Leo Dawson. Give it up, y'all, for my daddy. Hold on, daddy. I got something special for you. Yes, Daddy. I'm so glad that you're tuned in on tonight. You're learning to work that YouTube, and I know you're excited about that. So, Daddy, thank you so much for joining. So, as I stated, communication that builds, not breaks. Let's give you our foundational scripture, which is coming from Ephesians 4 and 29, the Good News Version. And it reads, do not use harmful words, but only helpful words, the kind that build up and provide what is needed so that what you say will do good to those who hear you. That in itself is so powerful. If you are in a relationship, you have to be so careful with your words, that your words are not harmful, but they are helpful and the kind that builds up and the kind that brings nourishment to someone, because you can correct someone, you can bring someone basically instructions, but it always have to be done in like the spirit of love. Okay, so the power of one words is so important, and we're going to unpack this here. All right, my brother is on. Hello, Red X. He said checking in. Thank you so much, bro, for checking in on tonight. So the power of your words. We know that in the book of Proverbs, it even talks about the power of life and death is in the power of the tongue. So when you say certain words to your spouse or to your significant other, when I tell you it can have an impact on them, it can really have an impact on them. It can help build them up, or it literally can break them down. So, one of the things that I want to point out on tonight is this: tone matters. I can say, stop doing that. Or I can say, you know what? Why are you doing that for? I'm saying that in a very aggressive type of tone. But if I say, hey, I have a question. Why are you doing that way? No offense. I just want to ask you that question. The way I asked that question the second time in my example, a person can accept that. Your spouse can accept that. Your significant other can accept that. But if you come off with a harsh tone, that person can become very defensive. And even before you get halfway into the conversation, if you approach them in the wrong tone, it is already blowing up, a full-blown argument. And this is what you will say. Well, goodness gracious, I only said this, but your only said this was stated in the wrong tone. We've all learned is not what you say, but what? How you say it, right? So tone matter. When you are in a relationship, and if you come off an aggressive type of way to someone, you literally can put them in a shut down mode. So we really have to watch our tone. So let me look at these comments here. Okay, Bree said, Bree is here. Hey, Brianna, thank you so much for joining. She said, ready for the conversation. Absolutely. She said, yes, tone does matter. She also said, it automatically makes me shut down. Me too. Me too. So again, we have to be careful and watch our tone. As I stated previously, it's not what you say, it is how you say it. Okay? That is what matters the most. Another thing I want to point out is this: the power of words, because that's what we're talking about. You can say something, but if you're being sarcastic in it, sarcasm can wound a person. When you are in a relationship and you make a statement, and some people say, oh, you taking a dig at me. I know that's kind of old. I'm kind of dating myself. I don't care. It's okay, right? So listen, if you say it in a sarcastic type of way and that person know that you are kind of like taking shots at them, it automatically can wound them. So you saying something, or a person said, "Oh, you trying to be funny." You didn't have to say it like that. Like you can say, for example, if you're out with your spouse, and your spouse may have, like, for example, you telling them, go this direction, I think we should take this particular route, and I'm like, no, I'm going to take the route that I know. And then when they're driving, and then they end up taking a wrong turn. See, I told you, if you would have listened, if you would have only listened, we wouldn't be delayed on our destination and getting there. That's being sarcastic. And that sarcasm can again be like a flick of fire and start an entire full blown argument. So even with that, you have to be very careful, because I even state this in my book, Fighting from Darkness. Make sure y'all get a copy of my book if y'all don't have a copy. Okay. In my book, I mentioned the cliche where people say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. That is the biggest lie ever told. Words do hurt. Sarcasm does hurt. It can create a wound. What is a wound? It hurts. It's a bruise. And you remember that. So words do hurt. So be very, very careful in how you state and say various things. Okay. So we have some other comments here. All right. Gene Jr. said, my wife all sucked. Wow, Gene. That's powerful. And thank you so much for being transparent, because a lot of times when people say certain things, they don't understand the tone that it is stated in. And when it's stated in a certain tone, or if that sarcasm is there, then the words are non and void. It's like it doesn't mean anything, because all that person now is feeling is the hurt that it was stated in. The tone is what's hurting them now. Forget the words. It's just how you said it that created some sort of resentment. So thank you so much for being transparent in that area. And I think this is a learning lesson for all of us, especially if you're in a relationship, and just and we're in different type of relationships, whether it's a relationship on our job, relationship with, our husband, wife, or you're in a dating phase or courtship phase. Because of this month of February, we're talking about love relationships. So again, be very careful in your tone and make sure that you're not being sarcastic. Okay. Red X stated, true that. Thank you. And also Brianna agrees. She said, that's the truth. She also said, Lenora, why do you think some individuals elevate their tones when communicating? When someone elevate their tone when they're communicating, I would say two things. Okay. From two standpoints. Some people elevate, I'll come from the softer side. Some people elevate their tone because they feel like they're not being heard. So they feel like raising their voice is causing the other person to hear them clearer, which that's not accurate. And then some people elevate their tone, yell, as a control mechanism. They feel like elevating their voice is going to kind of intimidate you or control a person to a certain standpoint. I tell anyone, and I shared this in a previous podcast, you don't have to yell at me or elevate your tone to get your point across. Now, I know people get passionate and excited when they're talking, but that's when they're talking. If we are in a disagreement and you are yelling or you're elevating your voice, then as I stated, one, you feel like you're not being heard. Two, you basically are trying to control that person or use an intimidation mechanism towards that person to make them fear you based upon your voice. Now, other people may view it differently. And if you do, please jump in the comments and provide me with your take on that. But that's my take on that. Okay. And my biggest thing, don't yell at me. You can tell me how you want, what you want me to do without the elevation of the voice. Okay. All right. So, Roderick said, amen. Sherry said, absolutely. Red X said, Tone does matter. Brianna said, I agree. I agree. And she said, true. She said, I've heard both as a way to be heard and a way to control the situation. Yes, that's what it is. And I don't like that. And if you are in a relationship with someone, you should set to me you should set the boundaries with that person and say, listen, if we have a disagreement, I don't mind that you disagree with me. But one thing that we're going to set as a boundary when we have this conversation, see, sometimes you gotta put the rules of engagement in place before you engage in the conversation. So you say, hey, these are the rules of engagement. If we're going to have this conversation, you do not yell at me. You don't get in my face. You don't point your finger at me. Lord, you see how I'm moving my head. You don't do those things, right? Because if you do those things, then to me, it seems like you are becoming, I'm just going to say it, violent. And that in itself, some people see what's that? They have that fight, flight mode or freeze. So it depends on how you approach that person, how that person respond. That's why it's very important to put down the rules of engagement, because some things can be a trigger, and before you know it, a person snaps. Okay. All right. So Sherry Dawson Williams stated, people elevate their tone based on feeling unheard. Some feel stressed or overwhelmed. Habit or based on their environment. That's true. I definitely agree with those takes there, Sherry. Absolutely. In regards to that. Crystal is on. Good evening, Crystal. Thank you so much for joining. She said, yes, that's true. Thank you so much, Crystal. And Sherry also stated sometimes people have relatives who are loud talkers. Now, if you're a loud talker, I understand that. There is a difference between being a loud talker, and there is a difference when you are basically elevating your voice. And I'm just going to translate elevating your voice to yelling at the top of your lungs, or just yelling in general, or screaming to get your point across. That is the difference. Okay. But as I stated, set the rules of engagement, the boundaries in place before you have a conversation. Brianna said you definitely have to set boundaries. I also believe you should communicate, hey, if you notice my tone is elevated, please let me know so that I can check myself. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Or if they're yelling, say, listen, can we just pause until, do you need to take a time out? And then sometimes if you tell certain people, okay, do you need, take a time out and then we can reconvene this conversation, they'll get mad. Like, you treating me like a child. No, I didn't say I'm putting you in time out. I say, let's take a time out because you're talking loud. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. And both of us, there is no, I would say there is no medium. There's going to be no resolution. Because why? All I'm hearing is yelling. I'm not even really hearing the words that you're actually saying. Okay. So, tone matters. I have relatives and that's how they communicate. I have relatives too. That's how they communicate. They're loud talkers. But if I'm going to be engaging with you and you want to have a conversation with me, we can't be yelling. Bring it down, because people can't say, well, that's how I talk. That's just how I talk. You go into the courthouse. You're going to know how to communicate and lower your voice. You're not going to be out there tomorrow. Yes, your honor, this is what that judge going to like, bring it down. And you keep talking loud to that judge, bailiff. So this is my thing. If we can control our behavior in certain environments, we're not on our job, and we have a disagreement and we go off on that person. If they bring our supervisor, brings something to our attention, or, a higher up, and they're having a conversation, we're not going to become belligerent and talking loud to them. If we can control our voice and our temperament with people outside of our family or outside of our marriage or outside of our relationship, why can't we utilize that same technique with the people that we love? Can somebody explain that to me? Okay. So that's something to think about. Let me read these other comments. Brianna said, "It's how I used to communicate, just being honest." And that's listen, Brianna, if that's the way you communicate it, that's the way you communicate it. Because as we stated in our previous podcast, some of the ways that we communicate is learned behaviors. We either learn that behavior by our parents, or we learn that behavior by other family members or friends. But just because that is a behavior that we have observed and that we reenact, it does not mean that is the right type of behavior. But when we come into the knowledge of the truth, the Bible said we what? Walk therein. So we know that's not the way to communicate, then we change our way of communication. Okay? All right. So I just wanted to say that real quickly. All right. Thanks, Brianna, for your transparency. And I like how you came back and said that. But I thank God for change. Yes. Yes. And she basically tagged some other people here. So I love that. I love that. Okay. So let me get to this next comment, because this is a very important comment here. My Leo Dawson stated, "Life and death is in the power of tongue. That is why we must be swift to hear and slow to speak, even if you are right. Timing is very important." Woo, come through, Dad, with the wisdom. I love it. I love it. That is so true, Dad. Life and death. And I'm going to say dad, because you know what? I had someone years ago tell me, "You need to be careful on your podcast, calling out your family members." Thank God that this is Lenora Lasser, Pivot to Your Purpose podcast, and I can recognize my father. Dad, thank you so much for this comment, because this comment is so important. Do you all see what my dad stated here? I'm not going to tell his age, because he don't like to tell his age, but you have decades of wisdom right here. Timing is everything when having a conversation. And it has been times that I have held my peace, because I realize, even in marriage, that the timing is not right. Not only in marriage, but other situations. You know that the timing has to be right before you have the conversation, because you have to say to yourself, what is the mindset of that person that I'm about to have a conversation to? If you know that person and had a full-fledged day at work and they've been stressed to the max at work, and you come home and say, "I need to talk to you," those words in itself, it just does something to people. You have to know where that person is at mentally before you have that conversation. So thank you so much, Dad. That was really good. And Brianna said, "You are right. You are right." Thank you so much. Okay, Clara Hines is on. Hello, Clara. Thank you so much for tuning in. She said, "This is so true." Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for joining us tonight. All right. Sherry stated, "Nobody will get their point across if both parties' voices are elevated." You won't. So just please calm down. Calm down. But again, as Brianna stated, some family members, it's a learned behavior. So if that person does not know how to communicate when they get married, when they are dating, when they are courting, they feel like this is the way of communicating. And if you are on the opposite end and that's not the way that you communicate, you don't yell, you don't respond in that way, you're not sarcastic, you don't get up in that person's face, you don't point your finger, you don't slam doors, you don't even do this. You don't do that. So you have to let that person listen. We can't communicate like that. And for some people, that's a red flag. And you remember I said that freeze, fight, or flight. Some people, if they see that as in the beginning, they take flight. They don't even give you a second chance. So again, be very, very careful. All right. Brianna said, "Yes, Bishop." And listen, Daddy, you got all this love and support tonight. Speak, Daddy. And I love this, because you know what? I can go back And when I'm gone on to glory, guess what? I have this on here. So my nieces and nephews, great ones down the line, everybody will be able to see that their granddaddy was here on YouTube commenting. Okay, I love it. All right. So Brianna said, as you should, sister. Red X said, man, by laugh aloud, you can do what you want. Laugh. So I guess you having a conversation, Josh, here with someone. All right. So Daddy got some more support here. You got some more support here. Okay. Clara said hello, and Joshua Reddit said, you're right, timing is key. It is absolutely key. Oh my goodness. It is absolutely key. And that's why I think it's so important to just ask God, like, God, is this the right time for me to have this conversation with this person? Is it? And then if he gives you, okay, I'm giving you the green light, then go for it. If he gives you that red light, stop. If he gives you that yellow light, that means you got to be cautious. It may not be the next, it may not be the time. You need to definitely know when. All right. Clara said, won't God do it? He definitely will. He definitely will. So, y'all, listen. So far, we talked about tone matter. We talked about sarcasm. Now, silence. Oh, yes, it can wound. Uh-huh. The power of words. When someone who wants to have a conversation with you and they say, okay, these are rules of engagement, we have a conversation, and they're not arguing with you, they're just having a conversation, and you like, I ain't saying nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. You okay? Yeah. You responding with them one words, something is wrong. You're not okay. So silence when you want to have an adult conversation with that other person, it can actually wound that person. The person becomes very isolated. And when silence happens in a relationship, then both parties start to formulate their own scenarios on what the common issue is or how the issue arrived. And that's when the enemy can start playing with your mind and creating these scenes that never ever existed. So it is so important to have an adult conversation. Silence can wound. All right. Just wanted to say that. All right. So I think I got an emoji from Jean, but it didn't come in. All right. So Reddick said it. Ranisha Vickery, what's up, fam? Hi, Ranisha. Thank you so much for joining. And Reddick said, analyzing everything. That is true. Mabel is on. Good evening, Mabel. Thank you so much for that. All right. And as I stated, if you're not already following me on all social media platforms, what are you waiting for? I have an amazing production team. Go ahead and follow me, okay? And subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. So when I go live, you won't miss me. All right. So we're talking about the power of the words. Let's look at this. You can love someone deeply and still hurt them consistently with your words. That's why tone matters. That's why sarcasm can wound. That's why silence can wound. Now, let's talk about communication that breaks. Y'all ready for this? This is going to be good. Have you ever heard this term? Defensiveness. You get on the defense. You know what defensiveness is? Shifting blame back to the partner instead of addressing the issue at hand. So if you are in a relationship and that other person is bringing something to your attention, and you may not be in a relationship, okay? To even keep it broader, and they're bringing something up to you. And you know within your hearts of hearts that that's an area that, yeah, you can improve in, or yes, you did something wrong. But instead of listening and hearing them out, you automatically start shifting blame back to them. Well, you did X, Y, and Z before. Now you want to correct me. You're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. That's defense. You've been on the defense. So it's important that you just kind of fall back a little bit, hear that person out, and don't try to twist the story to put the blame on that person. Why is it so hard for us to be corrected as adults? But we look at a child and expect for that child to take correction. There's a little child on the inside of us that still can stand for a correction, even though we're, as my mom used to say, grown and rusty adults. Okay? So at the end of the day, don't be on the defense if something is brought to your attention. That in itself causes communication to break down. And then you're back at square one all over again. Nothing is accomplished. I always, when I even work with my clients, I'll ask my clients, what do you want to accomplish from this session? What do you want to accomplish from our meeting today? Because I want to know what their expectations are. In conversation, sometimes to prevent a person being on the defense, say, listen, I want to just bring something to you. And this is what I'm looking to accomplish out of this conversation. If that person automatically get on defense, there is something wrong on the inside that they need some healing from. Defensiveness does not help in communication. Let me read these comments here, okay? Jean said, I don't yell, I whoop. I definitely do, Jean. I whoop. And I whoop. I definitely do that. All right. So, in relationships, defensiveness can feel like protection, but it slowly builds walls where bridges are meant to stand. When every concern sounds like an attack and every connection feels like rejection, love begins to suffocate under the weight of pride. The truth is, most partners are not trying to wound us, they are trying to reach us. This in itself is important. If you don't even remember at nothing else, remember the ending. The truth is, most partners are not trying to wound us. They're trying to reach us. They want you to hear their heart. But sometimes if you're on a defense, you will never, ever hear their heart. And it seems like you're running around in circles in a relationship. And sooner or later, if you're running around in circles in a relationship, like ring around the roses, you're soon going to get dizzy and somebody going to fall out. Right? So look at it that they're trying to reach you. Okay? Red X said that's true. And we're going to put this comment here up too. Healthy love requires vulnerability. If you all are watching, you want me to shout you out, y'all got to comment now. Comment. Okay. Healthy love requires vulnerability. It requires the courage to say, maybe I misunderstood. It requires the humility to admit I was wrong. And it requires the wisdom to pause before reaching. That's all you got to do. Just say, listen, I understand I'm wrong. It's not hard. I will apologize. It does not take away from who I am if I did something wrong. My apologies. I received something from someone that I'm doing some work for, and I annotated some information utilizing the incorrect decimal system. They corrected me. You know what I said? I said, thank you for letting me know. I will incorporate this effective immediately. I didn't say, well, goodness grief, I've been doing it this way and now you come around to say something about it. No, I took what they stated as constructive and implemented it. That is all. And that's all that we have to do as well. Y'all, this is a big one. But let me read this comment here because I see Ranisha. Hello. Thank you. She said, hey, Red X, she's speaking to you. So thank you so much for joining us. Y'all, this is another one. Stonewalling. Let me read what stonewalling is. Stonewalling is a pattern where a person refuses to engage in conversation or respond emotionally during conflicts, either consciously or unconsciously. I will be transparent to let you know that stonewalling is something that I have consciously and unconsciously done. Why do I stonewall in a conversation? Because when I hear someone that is, y'all know my pet peeve, yelling, and I hear anger, I shut down. A person who stonewall, they start just looking in opposite directions. They don't respond when the person say, "Do you hear what I'm saying?" They just look like this. And in the person mind who's doing the stonewalling, they're like, when is this conversation ending? Or a person who stonewall, they simply will get up and remove themselves out of the anger conversation. That's stonewalling. But if it happens unconsciously for some people, they don't even know that they're doing it. They're like, I tapped out. Stonewalling, it breaks down communication. It is not a good method of communication. But that's some people. You remember when I said flight, fight, and freeze? Stonewalling is a freeze mechanism for some people. So it's best, as I keep stating, and I'm rehashing this here, the rules of engagement is that you talk, I listen, I talk, you talk, I listen, I talk, you listen. Had to say it again to make sure I had it right. So if you start talking and then I start talking, then that's not right. And so when you start talking and you were talking when I was talking, then I can become Stonewall and say, I'm finished with this conversation. But again, it's not the best way to handle a conversation. Let's read these comments here. Okay. All right. Sherry stated, this is good, some good information. Thank you so much, Sherry. Appreciate that. Miss Naomi is on. Hello, Miss Naomi. She says she's watching. Roger said it is. And hey, Daddy, you got a shout out here. Gene Jr. said, we love Mr. Leo. Isn't he amazing? He's very, very wise. I love my daddy. I love him. I love him. All right. Sherry stated, boy, that is what got under my skin. Y'all hearing it right here. Live from the archives of the Dawson Family Values. You know they had Family Matters? Well, from the Dawson Family Matters or Values. Sherry is telling you, my sister will ignore you or laugh. Ooh, wee, that would get under my skin. I will stonewall you. Because, as I stated, I'm not going to sit here and argue back and forth with you when I know that I'm right. And when I know that I'm just trying to bring something up to you, but you want to antagonize me or want to. But I've learned that that is not the best method of communication. Why? Because what that is telling that other person is that I am ignoring you. And that will frustrate that person and make that person upset because you are not recognizing them. But I recognize you, but you got to come to me correct. And that's how some people are. They don't mind having a conversation, but you're just not going to be yelling and fussing at them. Okay? Husband and wives, you got to work on this stuff. If you're dating in court, you got to work on this with your significant other. Wilma is on. Hello, Wilma. Thank you so much for tuning in on tonight. Now, y'all ready for the next one? I hope y'all ready for this. Passive aggressiveness. This breaks down a communication. This is when an individual expresses negative emotions such as anger or frustration indirectly rather than openly, manifested, and I talked about this earlier, through sarcasm, procrastination, or the silent treatment. Have somebody ever wronged you before and you give them the silent treatment? Your spouse wrong you, you give them the silent treatment. Your significant other wrong you, you give them the silent treatment. Somebody that you know and you love and you care for, they wrong you, you give them a silent treatment. That's passive aggressiveness. You're being aggressive, but you're doing it in a passive way. That's how you're expressing your emotions. That's how you're expressing your anger and your frustration with that person. You do it indirectly versus openly. I know some of y'all see yourself. All right. So Clara stated, this is so true. Isn't it true, Clara? I agree. Listen, y'all got these numbers up tonight. Y'all keep sharing, keep sharing, keep sharing. This is good. Okay. All right. So Benita said, I know that's right. Come to me, correct. That's all, Benita. That's all I request. That's all you request. That's all many of us request. Just come to me in a very respectful way. And if you come to me in a respectful way, I can accept it even better. The Bible even states, love and kindness have I what? Y'all put it in the chat. I know I'll be a little delayed getting to it, but it says, love and kindness have I drawn thee. You can still correct me. You can still whoop up on me. Now, when I say that, okay, I'm kind of stretching that, but what I'm saying, you can correct me in love. If you're married and your spouse, you want your spouse to, do something or share responsibilities a little bit more, spend time with you a little bit more, communicate in a better way, you can share that with them in love. And if your spouse come to you in love, if your significant other come to you in love, stop blowing up at them and getting mad and irate. If you blowing up at them, you need to go somewhere and heal. And that healing, you can go to the therapist and go sit on their couch, or you can go to the altar and pray. Get on your knees and ask the Lord to take that angry spirit out of you. That you can sit down and have an adult conversation with the person that you said I do to. You can sit down and have an adult conversation with the person that you see yourself spending the rest of your life with and you're courting. You can have a conversation with that person. No one wants to be with someone that they cannot have a conversation with. Hello? That's not a good thing at all. Yashika said, I had to learn that everyone will not handle situations in the matter that I do. It doesn't make them wrong. I just have to respect it, and whether I agree or not. I absolutely agree with that, Yashika. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to talk about that, okay? Because that's good. Our level of expectations. And you know what? I have no problem that people will not handle the situations. But again, if that person on the other end is handling that situation in a very aggressive type of way, then I'm sorry, there is something wrong, and we just can't continue in this direction. Like I said, the person got to go get some help. And it can't be no temporary help. It got to be something that's going to have a long-lasting effect, because no one wants to live with a bitter person for the rest of their life. And I saw something that was trending on social media, and they said some of these older couples that have been together for years and years and years, some of them really have had a blissful marriage, a loving marriage. It doesn't mean that they have always did everything right, but they have worked through it. But some people have been married for a long time and they can't stand each other. I think Jean said in the last podcast, one sleep in one room, the other sleep in the other room. And they said, oh, we've been married 50 years. Everybody, oh, you've been married 50 years. Oh, my goodness. Congratulations. And only slept in the same bedroom for the first 10 years. Somebody needs some help. Let me read these comments. Silence can heal, but silence can also hurt. The wisdom is knowing when you are pausing to grow and when you're withdrawing to avoid. That's absolutely correct. True strength is not refusing to speak. It is choosing the right time. And we talked about that earlier. The right tone and the right heart with which to return to the conversation. So true. All right. Y'all know what? This is good. This is good. So let me read these other comments and then we got to keep going. Okay. Melina is on. She said, "Good evening. I'm late." Listen, Melina, but you here, girl. You here, and we've been having a good conversation. All right. So Benita said, "Amen." Clara said, "Amen." Y'all agreeing with this? Okay. Let me get to this other stuff. Another thing that breaks down conversations is, hold on. I got to do this one. Y'all give me a moment. Is this bringing up the past? When you bring up the past, you are basically causing that person to relive the past, and it breaks down the communication. Now, if it's something that just occurred and you bringing it to that person's attention, that's not bringing up the past. That's bringing up a situation that just occurred. But if you're going back to 1852, let me just use that date, 1852, when none of us was alive. Okay, being a little sarcastic there. If you're basically going back 10 and 20 years, pulling up something that y'all have bypassed, then that breaks down the communication. So just have a communication and say, listen, last night, I really did not appreciate the way you spoke to me. Or last night, when we were out and the way you looked at me with like a disgust look. And though you looked at me like that and you felt like it was okay, it was not okay. Because other people saw the way you looked at me. Other people saw that the way that you talked to me. And we're going to get to that. Let me go bring this up. Public disrespect. This in itself, I learned this from my mother and my father. God rest my mother's soul. Okay. They will always tell us and teach us when we have a disagreement, we will disagree within the confines of our home. We will not have disagreements out in the open. If you are married, if you are dating, courting, or whatever, don't have a disagreement with your significant other out there in the public. Get in the car and disagree with them then. And if you're in the car, don't be. There are people driving by like, oh my goodness, let me just follow them and see what's going on. Because they're going to say they going in. Disagree at the house. Public disrespect is, to me, one of the most highest levels of disrespect that you can have with your significant other. Let me read these comments. Okay. Sherry said, bah, ha, ha, ha. And Yashika said, I love that sound. Listen, I had to play the sound. Wilma said, amen. And Lena is tagging some people. Good, Lena. Love it. So yes, public disrespect. That is a big no-no. Remember this, James 1:19. Y'all can get some scripture here on this podcast. Remember this, my dear friends. Everyone must be what? Quick to listen, but slow to speak and slow to become angry. I ain't say it, Jesus said it. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Some of y'all are like chihuahuas. Person brings, they didn't even get the first complete sentence out, and you were, calm down. I'm not in an attack mode. I'm in conversation mode. That's what you need to start telling the person that you're dating or talking to or whomever. Listen, or married to. I'm not trying to attack you. I just want to have a conversation. So stop acting like no, don't say stop acting like a chihuahua. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't use that. Okay. Don't use that. I'm adding a little humor there. But just say, listen, we're gonna just have this conversation like adults. That's all. That's all. That's all I'm trying to tell y'all. Okay. Let me read these comments here. All right. Sherry said, or say, I'm gonna get you when you get in the car, laugh aloud. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, right. We know you right, girl. Yeah, you can't say, listen, I'm gonna get you when you get in the car. Or you can say, laugh out, get you. Just we gonna have a conversation. I'll put a conversation part two. But I'm just gonna be real. In relationships, in marriages, you're gonna have disagreements. That's life. But don't disrespect people in public. Okay. Mabel said, so true. Clara said, this is so true. Yes, it is. Brianna laughed and she said, Lord have mercy. Not giving the nonverbals. Yes, Brianna, I had to show you that. I had to show you the nonverbals because that's how people do. You know, in the car when that person is arguing, watch that head. If that head is, those are the nonverbals, and you know they're going on and going in. Clara said, I had to learn that. Listen, we all have to learn. We all had to learn that, Clara. Definitely don't disrespect people. Definitely agree. Let me get through these other ones. I haven't even played our sponsor commercial. But listen, real quickly, I have to go to a commercial break and we're going to come back real quick and cover communication that builds. This is a great conversation on tonight, but I have to play this commercial. Luxury isn't just a look, it's a feeling. And every moment deserves to be captured in its most timeless form. At Bougie Brief Photography, confidence meets the camera. Every pose, every detail becomes unforgettable. Whether you're stepping in front of the lens or into the spotlight, your beauty becomes cinematic, transformed into visuals that move you. And when it's time to celebrate, strike, smile, shine. Our luxury photo booth turns every event into a bold, unforgettable experience. Your story is more than a moment. It's artistry. It's emotion. It's you, captured with intention and elevated with elegance. So whether it's photography, videography, or a high-end photo booth, let's create something iconic. Book your luxury experience today. Bougie Brief Photography, where your confidence meets the camera. All right. And again, sponsored by Bougie Brief Photography. Okay. Now, Melissa is watching. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you so much for letting me know you're watching. Brianna said that's the truth. And Sherry Dawson Williams stated, Brianna Hunty, her nonverbal had me hollering. Oh, y'all. It did. Bougie Brief Photography now booking for all types of sessions. So y'all make sure that you all book and visit her website. So y'all, let's go back to this one. Okay. I have to bring this one up. Y'all ready? Communication that builds. If you are dating or if you are married, you want to hear affirmation. You want that person to affirm you. You look nice today. You're beautiful. I love that on you. Let me tell y'all something. If my 4-year-old just turned 4 this month, but he was 3 a couple of weeks ago, Caleb Williams, if he can give people a compliment, if you are in a relationship with someone, whether you married for 5 years, 1 year, 50 years, 100 years, you need to be affirming your spouse. You need to be affirming if you're courting a date, you need to be affirming that person. Tell them, oh, you look beautiful today. My nephew see me, he be like, Auntie, I like your hair. That's a pretty outfit. He will give me those compliments. 4 was 3 years old. Just because you've been in a relationship with a person after a certain amount of time does not mean that you stop affirming that person and complimenting them. Even if you turn a little round, something on me you can compliment me about. Hello, somebody. Listen, I got to give myself. I got to give myself. Mhm. Because prior to, did y'all hear them hands? Let me give it to you. Mhm. Okay. Just wanted to give it to you again. Just because you've been talking, as I stated, or dating or married, does not stop the compliments. Prior to that dating phase, oh, I love the way you look. Oh, girl, you look good, man. You look good. Time you get locked up with them, locked up, tangled up, tied up with them. Couple of years pass, very seldom hear a compliment. Mm-hmm. Start complimenting them. Get that fire back. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. Let me read these comments. Okay. Oh, Gene, I love this. And we talked about this earlier, but I want to put this up. He says, sticks and stones break bones and harsh tones will break up homes. Woo! Did y'all see that? Mm-hmm. So instead of using them harsh tones, do like Benita Quick just echoed what I stated. Compliments over complaints. If a person, that's all they do is complain, and if you dating this person, run. You married to this person, you got to have a conversation. Say, listen here. You've been doing a lot of complaining. What is something that you see going right? And what's something that we can both work on to enhance? Because I'm going to tell you, don't no one want to be with anyone that makes their life miserable and complain all the time. Sherry stated, my baby will definitely compliment you. Yes, he will. Listen, y'all. Huh. Talk about his auntie if you want to. Caleb will come for you. Sherry is agreeing with you, Benita. Wilma said, Precious, you are teaching. I got to teach the people, Wilma. I have to teach them. Because sometimes people forget. They forget. We all want to be affirmed. Sherry stated, say it, sis, marriage shouldn't stop the compliments. It should not. No one should be out. Y'all ready for this? Hold on, I don't think y'all ready. Okay. No one should out compliment your wife or your husband or your significant other more than you. No one. No one should be outdoing you and what you should be doing for your husband, your wife, or your significant other if you're courting. Somebody paying that person more compliments than you are affirming that person, paying that person more attention. There's a conversation that needs to be had. Let me just be truthful here. And I'm not talking about for myself. I'm just talking about conversations I've had with people. That in itself is how a lot of, and it does not make it right. I'm not giving nobody an excuse to go out and sin and break covenant. But that's how broken covenants start. People don't find certain things within their confines of their marriage and then they hear people say certain things, they start, oh, so sweet. And the sweetness then turn to a full-blown affair. My disclaimer, it should not happen, but I'm just telling you, these things occur in real life. I think we got a therapist on the line, and I think she could bring confirmation to that. Let me read some of these comments. All right. So Sherry stated, even when you get plump after getting married, you better still give compliments. Hello. That's what I said. Just because a person get a little rounded don't mean you cannot compliment your spouse. If it's nothing like, I love your roundness, but baby, let's do something here. Let's work together. Because both of you may be round at that point. So find something that both of you all can work together on and enhance. But yes, even if you're plump. Melissa stated, yes, she agreed. Sherry Dawson Williams stated, my husband still gives me compliments. I love it. If he's still giving you a compliment, that is the way it should be. Okay. Melina stated, amen. Melissa agreed. Joshua sent a heart here. Sherry stated, come from bongos. Simple. Listen. I meant come through bongos in one symbol. Okay. I love it. But Mabel stated, amen. Benita stated, great teaching. Listen, it's the truth, Benita. As I stated, nobody should be affirming your spouse more than you, or if you're courting your significant other, nobody. Communication that builds. Active listening. What is active listening? Active listening means if there is a disagreement, or it doesn't have to be a disagreement, you all can be having a conversation. And active listening skills is this. I am going to listen and hear you out. I'm not already in my mind formulating how I'm going to respond back to you because you're on the defense. Active listening means I'm going to hear you out. And not only that, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to affirm what I just heard from you. I understand that I may have stated that in the wrong way, just like you stated, but this is the point that I was trying to bring to your attention. But instead of active listening, a lot of people have defensive listening skills where they're on the defense. Time you say, I want to bring something up. What is it? What's going on? What's wrong with you? Okay. Active listening. Clarity. Ooh, this is important, but this is what helps build a communication. Clarity instead of assumption. If something is stated when you are having a conversation or a disagreement, all you have to do is say, can you please clarify? Not assume what that person is saying and you formulating in your mind. Now you all upset and y'all in an all thrown out heated battle. Like Clarissa Shields and the other lady who fought the other night. You're in that kind of wrestling match. Or if you want to go back in my days when you had a WWE, WWF, you got Tatanka and you got Hulk Hogan. You're in a full-blown match because you don't want to get understanding, clarity instead of assumption. Got a few more and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight, okay? There is nothing wrong with having a conversation, communication that builds, right? Is this gentle honesty. If I'm coming to you in a gentle way and say, listen, I want to share this with you. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're ready to hit me over the head before I say, and I want to share, well, what is it? Here you go again. Want to complain. I'm not complaining. I just want to have a conversation with you. So gentle honesty helps build a relationship. Sherry Dawson Williams stated, girl, you ain't never watched no wrestling. Sherry, yes, I did. How did I know who Tatanka was? The Undertaker. I do know wrestling. What was the other guy? Sean somebody. So I did watch wrestling. So give me my props, Sherry. Y'all see, I just had a disagreement with her, and I had to bring some validity and verify with her that I have watched wrestling. And y'all see how I communicated? That's how you're supposed to communicate with your spouse. That's how you're supposed to communicate with your significant other. All right. So Chander stated, hey, Chander, she said, after almost 40 years together and 4 children, my husband gives me compliments every day. See, that is what I am talking about. That's how it's supposed to be, Chander. Like I said, nobody else should be outdoing you and giving compliments to your spouse. If they look nice, they look good, let them know that. Because you know what? We're going to talk about the 5 love languages, but we're not going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about it in 2 weeks. Okay. So y'all got to get back here in 2 weeks so we can talk on that. So let me finalize these last comments because my producer is backstage, y'all. And when I tell y'all she is something else, she is something else. Yashika stated, some people are committed to misunderstanding you no matter how you break it down. It gets nerve-wracking. Listen, Yashika, that is so true. They're committed to misunderstanding you because they want to always be in a antagonistic mindset. I cannot stand that. And what I gather from you, you can't stand that either. So they want to misunderstand you no matter how much you break it down. They're like, I just don't get it. You don't want to get it because you don't want to get it. Because you steady want to be on the defense. And yes, it definitely is nerve-wracking. You can actually get a board and say, do you see this? And they say, what do you want me to see? Do you see this on this board? What do you want me to see? Just read what's on the board. You can break it down just that simple, but they're going to find something to be antagonistic about. Some people just love to, you know what I learned? Some people just love to argue. Some people just love to be angry and in a disagreement with you. They don't want to agree with you on nothing. Maybe it's because that's their learned behavior. Nobody agreed with them on anything in life. So guess what? They want to disagree on everything. They don't want to find a common ground of understanding. So Benita stated, laugh out loud, love y'all sisterly bond. Sherry is hilarious. Because it is Love Month, I have to share this video. I have to share it. It's very powerful. And then y'all, we're going to come back and then we're going to wrap this thing. We're going to wrap it up, okay? All right. Some of you have experienced so much trauma dealing and loving the wrong man. So it took her having an encounter with God to realize my love is not tied to what's back there in my house. In order to pour in yourself, you got to learn how to receive. I'm surrounded by my sisters. I'm going to pour into myself. I'm going to glean all of this information that God is pouring into me. And once I glean this information and I eat and I digest it, I'm going to raise my hand and say, Lord, I thank you for replenishing me. Lord, I thank you for loving me. Lord, I thank you for keeping me in my right. What? All right. So last 2 things I want to cover on tonight before my producer quit is this. Okay. All right. Is this here. Is apologizing. Why is it so hurt to say, I apologize? I'm sorry. And when you apologize, apologizing does not mean you repeat the same action. Some people, it literally eats them alive to say, I am sorry for the way I handled this situation. Honey, I'm sorry the way I responded. It's like you ask them to give half of their arm. And all you want them to do is apologize. There's nothing wrong with apologize. That helps build a communication. But apologizing means you don't go back and do it again. Last thing we're going to talk about tonight, addressing issues privately. We talked about earlier public disrespect. Have disagreements in public. So the thing that you do, you have it privately. You address situations privately because people observe verbal language when you're in a marriage and you're out and you're having a disagreement, or if you're dating, you're courting, you're having a disagreement, they watch that stuff. And they watch the verbal, nonverbal, and verbal. Because nonverbal, you can look at that person, as I stated, and discuss like you are so, oof. And people can tell it. All right. These last ones I'm going to read, and y'all, I'm coming to an end. Brianna said, that's the truth. Sherry said, thank you, Bonita. Quick. Melina said, all it takes is just a simple apology. That's all. I don't know what's so hard to do. Bonita said, yes, apologizing doesn't make you weak. Communicate and compromise. Come through, Bonita. Come through, Bonita. Communicate and apologize and compromise. And as Melina stated, just a simple apology. Melissa stated, apologizing don't make you weak, it makes you strong. Your spouse will notice also. Y'all, I love y'all. We can continue this conversation, but y'all join me back in 2 weeks. We're going to continue this conversation. Y'all have a great night. Take care.